Welcome to episode 164 of the Various and Sundry podcast. I am your host, Matt Harmon, joined live from the Vault Studio on the beautiful campus of Grace College and Theological Seminary by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man who is getting ready to leave town one more time, John Scott Sloat.
There was a big pause there.
Dramatic pause.
Yeah, you did not have one prepared.
Well,
huh?
I had sort of a half-baked one. So,
okay.
So we're actually recording on a Thursday
afternoon,
late
in the afternoon.
A full 4 days before this episode actually drops. And why are we doing that, John?
Well, tonight I go to Indianapolis. Andrea and I have a hotel in Indianapolis, and then the next morning we'll fly out to North Carolina.
Okay.
And then we're there till Sunday. We fly back, and then I go to Atlanta the very next day.
Okay.
And then I guess that's the real reason is I'm not here next week.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah. So some of our listeners probably know one of the inspirations for our podcast is the Happy Rant podcast that both of us have enjoyed at various points.
Yep.
And one of their co-hosts, Ronald J. Martin.
Oh, yeah.
They often like to refer to him as
Tarmac.
Ronnie Tarmac.
Yeah.
So we are on we are moving in that direction of calling you. I know you probably have you ever been called Johnny Tarmac
by children?
Yeah.
By young children.
Okay.
I'd be okay with that.
Johnny Tarmac.
I haven't missed an episode though.
That's true.
Which
Ronnie cannot say that.
Ronnie, he may miss 25% of those episodes.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest. The podcast is better when he's not on. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Okay.
Of the three, he's probably my least favorite.
Yeah.
Although he's also the closest. We could get to him the easiest.
The geographically closest. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. That's true.
He was also closest to us church-wise as well. He was a Grace Brethren Cares Fellowship worship leader for a time.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. Just interesting.
Yeah. That's all we should probably say on that. So if you'd like to get in touch with the show, you can find us on Twitter at VNSPod. You can email the show, variousandsundrypodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube as well. We'd love for you to leave a 5-star rating and a review. And I'm going to be straight up with you, John. I've gotten some pushback from our last episode.
The one that dropped?
The one that dropped last week.
Yeah.
That we just recorded 3 days ago.
Yeah. With
our Super Bowl correspondent, Will Dawson.
Really? People didn't like Will?
Oh, no. No, it was the fact that I'll just shoot straight with you here. My wife is still a little bit salty about the fact that Will got on the show before she did. And so is Nate from Ohio.
Oh, Nate's upset about this.
Yes.
Boy, okay.
Yeah. I suppose we should feel honored that people are so eager.
My apologies.
To get on the show.
Yeah.
But it's fine. We booked Will, and it was my idea really to do this. So I take responsibility for this. It was my decision.
Well, and he has a very unique perspective.
Yeah.
As a reporter.
Yes.
At these events.
Yes.
Who we're connected with.
Yes.
These events that we talk about all the time.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah.
There's part of it that just makes sense to me.
Yeah. So in any case, feel free to reach out to the show and express your displeasure at what we talk about on this free platform to you. So yes,
interesting.
There we go. All right, John, let's talk a little sports. And since we're going to be a few days removed by the time this drops, I thought we would, NFL season finally over, right?
Yep.
Super Bowl's in the books. The Chiefs are the champs. And
by the way, Disney's putting out the commercial of Patrick Mahomes going, "I'm going to Disneyland."
Yeah.
Andrea has never seen those commercials before.
No.
And so they popped up on TV. She goes, "What? This is stupid. Why is he going to Disneyland?" She just didn't understand. I was like, no. That's a thing.
Yeah.
Every championship.
For like 30 years that's been a thing now.
She'd never seen it before.
Really?
Isn't that wild?
That is. Okay. That is interesting, yes. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk this past weekend when this episode drops. It hasn't happened yet, but NBA All-Star Weekend is going on. So do you – I know you're going to be traveling, so you're not going to be in a position to really watch. But, like, do you normally watch? Is there any element of the All-Star Weekend for the NBA that you're like, oh, I kind of like that?
I like to tune in for the skills competition, dunk contest. I like that stuff. I think it's fun. Dunk contest usually goes on way too long.
Yeah. Well, and they just don't seem to get the guys that people are really clamoring for.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think guys are worried they're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Which is understandable. You know, your whole livelihood is based on your body. Do less things that hurt it.
Yes.
You know, that makes sense.
And to be honest, you could go onto YouTube and search for dunks and find dunks that are probably better in some ways by people that you've never heard of that are just freakish athletes but aren't anywhere near good enough to play in the NBA. So even it used to be, well, that was what you had available to you. So you waited every year for, oh, this is amazing, this dunk contest. Well, now it's – well, you can go search on YouTube and find a bunch of montages of amazing dunks.
You know what's funny, though, is I catch more NBA when I travel than when I'm at home.
Yes.
Do you know why that is?
Well, I know you don't have cable.
I don't have cable. All hotel rooms basically have cable.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to I'll click it on and watch. You know.
But this weekend you're going to be hanging out with family, so you're probably not going to be.
Yeah, that's probably true.
And now the dunk contest starts at 11 o'clock at night, which is multiple hours beyond your bedtime.
I was going to mention that. Yeah, I can't stay up that late.
Yeah, we all know.
It's rough.
So I do enjoy the 3-point competition. I think.
Oh
that's fun.
yeah, that's another one I enjoy.
But
the game itself, though, do you?
They've tried to make it interesting, where they've changed the format to.
Elam ending? Are they still doing that?
Yes, but each quarter now, they break up into the teams, and who wins each quarter determines which charities get money and that kind of thing. So each quarter matters in that sense. And then they do the Elam ending for the fourth quarter. So I don't know. I mean, it's the quality of basketball is terrible, but it's elite level NBA players goofing around and playing no defense.
Yeah,
there's a measure of entertainment
sure
to that. But so as we record today, let's see, where are your Knicks, John Sloat? They are in. Let's see. They are in. I lost my place there. They are in sixth. They're sixth in the East.
Just outside the play-in, right?
Yes. You want to stay in the top six to avoid the play-in games.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
A little bit of a surprise. The Cavs are in fourth.
Well, Donovan Mitchell is amazing.
Yes, he is. Yes, he's having a monster year. Celtics and Bucks at the top of the East. No surprise.
No surprise with the Sixers on their heels.
Yes.
And the Cavs on their heels.
Yes. So let me switch over here to the West.
Don't you think the Nets are going to fall off, though, just a little bit here with the gutting of their stars recently?
Yes, they will.
So, I mean, that's the fifth seed right now, so I think they'll probably back off.
Yeah, probably.
So that would get the Knicks into the fifth position. That'd be fun. Top five?
Yeah, the 4-5 matchup. If that was a Cavs-Knicks matchup there, that'd be interesting. Let's see, Western Conference Nuggets are in first, but it's pretty bunched up once you get to third. So between third and let's see here. Yeah, between third and 13th. Is that right? No, between third and 11th. There you go. There is a 4.5 game spread. So really bunched up. A lot can happen in that still. But Nuggets leading the West, and the Warriors. I mean, the Warriors are in ninth, which is shocking. But, they're 3.5 behind Sacramento, who's in third.
Yeah.
So they catch, they catch a good rhythm there, and they could easily end up top 3, top 4.
The Suns made a pretty big upgrade.
Yes.
Right.
With KD. And they're in fourth, but a game out of third. The Nuggets, though, the Nuggets are actually relatively healthy. They just they've not been healthy these last few years. And it feels like they've got all their pieces together.
Yeah.
But, with the shuffling of the deck with the trade deadline now, with Kyrie in Dallas and KD in Phoenix.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with everything. And D'Angelo Russell in LA again.
Yep. Yeah. So it sets up for a good finish, though. I think the NBA regular season will actually be compelling with all these changes now and see how that works out.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little baseball.
Yeah. Pitchers and catchers have reported at this point. And by the time this drops, I think everybody will have reported.
So tell me about have the Mets made any major additions or have any subtractions from their roster?
So we lost Jacob deGrom. Did you know that?
I think I did.
Okay, so he signed with Texas, and in his opening press conference said, I just really wanted to be a part of an organization that wanted to win, which did not go over well.
I'm sure.
And the next day, the Mets ownership announced the signing of Justin Verlander, the ageless wonder who I think he's in his 41-year-old season right now, and won the Cy Young last year. So they went out and spent and got a really good ace. So basically, everybody's kind of looking at them going like, well, you didn't really improve. However, they won 101 games last year.
Right.
It's hard to improve on 101 wins.
Right. Though they did fade late in the year.
They did fade late.
And it was their offense, if I remember correctly, right, that kind of let them down. Their bats went cold.
Bats went cold. Yeah, that's fair. We're really relying on some rookies that are coming up. So we got a third baseman, Brett Beatty, who's coming up. Francisco Alvarez, he's a catching prospect that I think he's 20, 21 years old. And the dude just hits dingers.
Okay.
So he's just a big guy that just hits the ball a long way, and he plays catcher and first base. So we'll see what happens with Francisco Alvarez. I mean, there's high hopes on those guys. There's another guy called Mark Vientos. The problem with him is he can't play defense.
Oh, that is half the game.
That is half the game, except for the DH.
That's true.
Which is kind of where everybody has him pegged in the majors.
Unfortunately, the Mets play in the National League that does not have the DH.
That's not true anymore.
Really? They switched it?
Last season, yeah.
I guess I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so
that shows how out of touch I am with baseball.
The whole league has the designated hitter now. They changed some other rules this year. You can't shift anymore?
I did hear that. I think that's dumb.
Really?
Yeah.
They want more action. They want more balls in play.
Okay, well, then
well, let me think. They got some other rule changes this year. What do you think of so no shifting, a pitch clock for pitchers? Do you like that?
Love it.
Okay. So they have a pitch clock now. What else did they do? Oh, they enlarged the bases by 3 inches.
Why'd they do that?
They want more people running. They want more action on the bases.
So making them 3 inches bigger is supposed to incentivize stealing bases?
Stealing bases.
Being more aggressive on balls
right.
hit into the gap, that sort of stuff.
So instead of 90 feet base to base, it's now 89 and a half.
That's 6 inches. I mean,
yeah.
That's going to make all the difference. The analytic people are going to be all over this.
Oh, yeah. So do you like that change? Do you not like that change?
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
I don't care about that.
I'm trying to think, were there any other big rule changes? Got the no shifting, the bigger bases. Oh, in extra innings, automatically a runner on second.
I thought they were already doing that, weren't they?
They did it during the pandemic. They stopped it for 2 years, and now it's coming back.
Do they do that in the postseason?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that.
All right.
Pastor Mark would probably know the answer to that.
There you go.
Because he's on to these things.
That's true.
So I think those are the major rule changes this year.
Okay. I can get on board with that.
So one of the big questions every year is like, what kind of baseball are we going to have in the season?
Yeah.
Is it going to be a juiced ball? Is it going to be a dead ball?
Right.
How much is it going to fly? That always connects with the number of home runs we have.
Yes.
Whether we have guys hitting 50 and 60 home runs or whether we have guys hitting 30 and 40 home runs. Mm-hmm. That's always a big question mark out there.
Yes. And you get a hint of that, don't you, in spring training a little bit or not?
No, I think they use previous year baseballs in spring training.
Okay.
Just to use them up.
Yeah.
But so baseball bought the company that makes the baseballs a few years ago.
That makes sense.
And baseball MLB is like tweaking the baseball year to year.
Yeah.
And there's even some suspicion that nationally televised games, they give it a live baseball.
Oh my gosh.
And so the ball travels further, higher viewing, higher attendance, all these things.
Okay.
But isn't that wild to think about?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's your baseball update. The Mets
playoffs or bust.
Playoffs, I think it's deep playoffs or bust.
Yeah.
I think last year they got bounced in their first series. I think they need to get a bit deeper.
Agreed. And as we approach March, that means March Madness is on the horizon. We will once again do a bracket challenge.
Yeah, that's always fun.
And we'll get that going here in terms of getting that set up in the system here shortly. Probably a couple weeks out still.
Who won last year? Do you remember?
It was Grant.
Oh, Grant in Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll offer another signed copy of one of my books.
You've had a few more come out.
I've had one. So since last March, just one.
Just one?
Yes.
Really?
I know. I'm slacking.
What do you do with your day, Matt?
I don't know. All right. Ready to move on, John?
Yes.
Okay. So today we are talking about He Gets Us.
Okay. I assume you mean the ad campaign?
Yes. Unless you've probably been living under a bit of a rock, you have seen at least one of these somewhere. There were two of them during the Super Bowl.
I only saw one during the Super Bowl.
One during the first quarter, one during the fourth quarter.
I saw the one in the fourth quarter. I did not see the first quarter.
So, let's talk a little bit about this. This is a $100 million ad campaign that is designed to start conversations about Jesus. And so now I'm going to read a direct quote from their website, the He Gets Us website. Here's a quote. He Gets Us is a movement to reintroduce people to the Jesus of the Bible and the confounding love and forgiveness. We believe his words, example, and life have relevance in our lives today and hope for a better future. One more quote. Throughout our shared history, Jesus has represented the ultimate good that humankind is capable of aspiring to. And though some no longer believe in God, most are still compelled by the idea of a person capable of unconditional love for others despite their differences. We look at the biography of Jesus through a modern lens to find new relevance in often overlooked moments and themes from his life. So those are three different quotes taken directly from the HeGetsUs.com website.
I believe the About Us page, right?
Yes.
Which we'll put in the show. We'll put in the links.
The first two were from. The first one was from the About Us. The second and third ones were from a page that is entitled "He Gets Us Has an Agenda." So it's sort of responding to some people's accusations that they have this agenda, and they're basically saying, "Yeah, we have an agenda. Here's what our agenda is." Mm-hmm. So. What have been your general impressions of this? Whether it's from seeing the ads, whether it's from poking around their website a little bit. Well, when you first kind of became aware of it or saw a commercial, what were some of your initial thoughts?
My first thought was, what Mormon group paid for this? was my first thought.
Yeah.
Like, who has the money to do this? It's probably the Mormons or something like that, some sort of denomination or something like that has the cash to put this out. That was really my first thought.
Okay. Follow the money.
Yeah. Which donations and fundraising is an interesting part of this story because for about I think the campaign was live for like 6 to 8 months and nobody could figure out who gave the money for it.
Yeah.
Because they gave through a Christian donor advised fund.
Okay.
Do you know what a donor advised fund is?
I don't.
So
we have an expert in the room. Right
yeah,
here.
yeah. We have entered the realm of fundraising at this point.
Yes.
But basically, donor advised funds, Fidelity has one, Christian Foundation has one, Cigna something, it was this one. And basically, like, let's say you have 5 charitable organizations that you give to. Instead of you writing checks to each of those individually and then they give you a receipt, you donate to your donor advised fund. It's a not-for-profit organization. Yeah. It then invests that money and your money continues to grow in the donor advised fund. And then you make a recommendation on where to send it, and they are supposed to send it on.
Okay.
And so places like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, they have started saying, we're not going to give to this organization. And so people are up in arms. So all these Christian organizations have come out and said, we're going to start our own.
Yeah.
This one that was used, it starts with an S, I can't remember the name of it, has like a few billion under assets. And they donate to they're explicitly Christian.
Yeah.
And they will not tell you where the money comes from. So up until November, we didn't know where the money was coming from.
Yep.
And that was fascinating.
Yeah.
That was probably the most fascinating part of the article to me.
Of course.
That and some of the theology surrounding Jesus. That was the other fascinating part.
Yes. So
so that's what I thought about.
It did eventually come out that one of the major donors is the Hobby Lobby guy. What's his name?
Green something?
Yeah.
Something Green?
Yeah. So
Dan Green?
Yeah, Dan Green. And there are others as well. I mean, but
I think he's the only one that's public, though.
I think that might be right.
As far as I know, he's the only one that's come out. I think he came out on like one of these conservative talk shows that he was a supporter of it.
Yeah.
Now he could be, a few grand or a few $100,000. We don't know.
Well, I listened to a podcast with one of the lead guys of He Gets Us. And he certainly gave he gave the impression that the idea sprang from him getting a text from a major donor. And you kind of listen a little bit and it's like, well, it certainly kind of gave the very indirect vibe that he might have been the impetus behind it even in terms of the idea.
The driver.
Yes.
So what was your first response when you saw the commercials and things like that, billboards or heard about the campaign?
Yeah. So I think my initial reaction was as I saw the ads, my first reaction was, oh my goodness. First of all, that's a commercial about Jesus. That's surprising. Don't see a lot of those.
Yeah.
But then thinking their presentation of who Jesus is, I'm like, I don't know about that. Or at least it was, well, sort of, but
kind of a yes, but.
Yeah, kind of, but maybe, depending on what we mean by that. And yeah, so, not to be the well, actually guy, but I was kind of the, well, actually, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah.
Especially as some of them came out, it felt very, and this is getting into one of my initial kind of, I guess, criticisms of it is, it felt like they were trying to wrap Jesus into our cultural categories, in terms of trying to frame him within those. And I think anytime you do that, it's dangerous.
Refugee, rebel.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the kind of categories that they're using.
Yeah. So
wrongly convicted.
Yeah.
Stuff
So
like that.
Jesus was so there's a commercial. One of them is about refugees, and Jesus was a refugee too. Okay. So broadly speaking, sure. But is it really the same thing? And what do we mean by refugee? Is it anybody who shows up at our borders? Is it like, so all of a sudden now we're into immigration policy.
Yep.
Or,
Jesus did not go to the UN to get placed somewhere or anything like that.
And, so it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, you're using a contemporary category and then saying Jesus was this. Like, well, but he wasn't really that, depending on how we understand that term or that category we're using. So now I will say the ads in terms of their quality are exceptionally done.
They're beautiful.
They are well designed. They are well crafted. They make you think. And I think from that perspective, they are a success in that people won't look at that and go, oh, that's kind of hokey Christian stuff.
Yep.
No, it's more of like, that's impressive. Like that feels like a commercial that any brand would be happy with in terms of its look, its feel, all of that. In fact, one of the podcasts I listened to about this basically said that the desire behind it, basically that the lead guy was like, I want something that is like Nike's Just Do It. Short, memorable, and compelling. Like, on that front, they got it.
I think they did get it, yeah.
It's a 3-word phrase. He gets us. It's genius on the marketing end.
There's baked in like compassion and empathy and all these categories that are just really good for a brand.
Genius. So they absolutely got their money's worth from a secular perspective of like they put big bucks up, and whatever marketing agency put this together hit a home run in terms of design and all of that. So props to them for that. Any other positives? I think both of us have some concerns.
I mean, it has created a lot of conversation around Jesus.
Absolutely.
I think conversation about it's given us content for this podcast as well, which I'm always in favor of.
Yes.
But it's created a lot of conversation around Jesus, and I think it's been helpful. Anyway, I want to get to this later, but some of the response was just like, you people who don't like the You Gets Us campaign, you're just upset that you're not evangelizing and people are out here sharing the gospel at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't think we have an agreement about what the gospel is. So I want to explore that later. But I think it's been clarifying to me that lots of people don't understand what the gospel is.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that certainly wasn't their intention, but that's been helpful to me.
Right. Yes. So let's talk about some of the issues here. Let me start with I'll start with one. I've got 9 listed here, 8 listed here. And I don't know if you probably have others as well.
I share some of these. Yeah.
Okay. First, the Jesus they present is purely human.
I wanted to camp on that one for a minute.
Okay.
In there, they often in the About Us section, they talk about Jesus experienced emotion and all these things, and was experienced. He's the greatest human that ever was. Talking through, which is true, right?
Yeah.
Right. He is human, but there is sort of an enamoration. I don't know if that's a word. With Jesus' humanity right now. So I haven't watched it, so I have no opinions about it. But The Chosen, when I talk to people about it, I go, what do you like about this? And they go, it just presents Jesus as so human. And I go, why do you need that? And I just don't understand like the cultural glory of Jesus as human. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
My sort of like ramblings here?
No, I get it. In fact, look, I don't expect a full-orbed gospel presentation in a 30-second ad.
Sure.
I'm not criticizing them for that. But when you look at the series of ads, it's all about his humanity and about his ability to identify with us in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's true. But that's like one small aspect of who Jesus is.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue it's not the most significant aspect.
Yeah.
Because lost in all of this is any sense of not just does he get you, whatever that means, it's that he saves you and he changes you. That's nowhere really in view there. It's sort of the implied vibe of it is he gets you and you're basically okay. Or, you have the same frustrations that Jesus has with certain people.
Oh, yeah.
Well, is there any recognition in there of you're a sinner?
Yeah.
Like, I don't just need someone to empathize with me or to understand me. I need someone to save me and to change me.
Well, and it's Jesus is a good teacher and a moral person, and we should like him.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that sort of the message? Sort of this is sort of a little bit Ashton Kutcher, Jesus is my homeboy.
Yeah.
So it's sort of brown and served with a better marketing budget.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
You know who else thought Jesus' humanity should be elevated?
The Aryans?
Arius. Like that's my snarky response to this ad. Like, oh, Arius has a Super Bowl commercial. That was a bit of my snarkiness.
Yeah. So there's no and it's not just the ads. When you dig into the website,
it's the same stuff.
It's the same stuff. There's nowhere that you're like, well, not actually is he just human, he's actually God.
Now, in the website they do say you may not believe that Jesus is fully man and fully God like we do.
Oh, you found that? I did not see that.
Yes, that's in the About Us section.
Okay.
They do say that, but you may not be there, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. Like, why? Like it just the whole enterprise seems to lack theological grounding.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, true. My second one, the analogies they draw between contemporary culture and Jesus need way more nuance and tend to lean. This is my take. Feels like they lean a little bit more left than right on that spectrum politically,
which is funny
because it's funded by people who are politically conservative.
Yeah,
generally speaking.
I felt the same way that it leaned that way, and I agree. Like those are important topics that we need to talk through.
Yeah,
like refugees, immigration
policy, racial politics, racial issues.
Absolutely,
Sure.
We need to have long conversations, not 30-second Super Bowl ads about them, but. But I agree. They seem to try to – I don't know if they were trying to sway marginal Democrats to be more conservative. I don't know what the aim is.
Yes.
But anyway.
Third, there's no central hint there's no hint of his central mission, no sense of offering his life as a ransom for sins. So going back to one of their about statements, right, where was it here? We believe his words – example and life have relevance for our lives today and hope for a better future.
But no mention of his death or resurrection.
Yes.
Or second coming.
Yeah.
Maybe you could pull out second coming in the future, but
you missed the cross and the empty tomb. That's kind of a problem.
That's a big one.
And it's in the about section too. So you had more opportunity to – I'm not saying it has to be in the ad. I'm saying but when you go to the about section and you try to say we believe his words, example, and life have relevance, well, a lot of people look at Jesus as the moral example or a fine teacher or something like that. Sure. So that's a problem. Here's one that we haven't talked about yet. What controls are there for churches who register to follow up leads? Because basically you can go onto the website and say, I'm interested in more information about Jesus or connecting with somebody to learn more about Jesus. From what I can tell, there is no theological control for a church signing up. So you could get a Jehovah's Witness congregation. You could get a Mormon church. Or, this was funny, this criticism actually is out there on the left as well. I read some secular articles who were like, oh, this is terrible. You could actually get referred to a church that believes homosexuality is sinful. And they're outraged by this. So it's kind of funny to see people on the progressive left criticize this. But I would say, it's sort of rolling the dice as to what kind of church you could get connected with.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, are they working with Catholics?
That I don't know.
I mean, it definitely has a Protestant foundation, but is that even?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah. This is a bit of a wrinkle. On their website, they have this whole system for getting free gear, free in quotation marks. Did you see this?
No, I didn't read through this.
So you can get He Gets Us gear, a hat, a T-shirt, that sort of thing, for free. All that they ask is you do something good for somebody else. So if you go to the website and there's a section of where is it? Give love, get free gear. So you can get a T-shirt. No money required. Pick your price. Care for your neighbor, console someone who is hurting, etc. Go do a good work. We'll send you a free T-shirt or a free hat. What is that telling you about the nature of the gospel? Very strange. Yeah.
It just doesn't feel very well thought out. Like the whole campaign. Other than they wanted something attractive.
Yeah. Yes. I've got a few more here. We're running a little low on time, but
let's do it.
Let's see. Let's see.
I think you're at 6.
Yeah. I'll just hit these briefly. I think it perpetuates the stereotype that Jesus followers don't really get who Jesus is, right? It kind of builds into the vibe of, well, there are Christians out there, but they don't really get who Jesus is because they're trying to distance themselves from any of those types.
Yeah.
Next one, it invites people to identify as victims or righteous rather than as sinners, right? It's like he gets you. Jesus gets you, and he shares those same frustrations with those other people who are like that. Well, where's your own personal responsibility in that? And the campaign reinforces what culture wants us to believe about Jesus while leaving out what culture doesn't want to believe about Jesus. In other words, the sharp edges of what Jesus says, nowhere to be found.
Oh, yeah.
Nowhere to be found. So I'll give you final thoughts as you kind of look at this. How should if someone comes to you and says, John, what do I do with this? Is there anything good I can use out of this? Is it all bad? What do I do with this He Gets Us stuff?
This will be a Arius conversation in my church history class this year. So that will be one takeaway I have.
All right.
If somebody comes to me, I'm probably going to point them to number 1, right? The Jesus they present is purely human. And probably the other one is number 3. There is no hint of his central mission to offer his life as a ransom for sin.
Yeah.
Like those elements just aren't present in the campaign anywhere. Now, maybe they do a pivot with some of the criticism they're getting. They hear the VNS pod discuss this and is frustrated.
Obviously.
And Dan Green shows up on campus, begs us to retract this and promises us all these changes.
Yeah. Drops $10 million for a building on campus.
Absolutely, as one does. But those would probably be the 2 points I'd hit the most.
I think the best I can say is, and you said this earlier, it is sparking conversation about Jesus.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't want people to go to the He Gets Us website and probably rely on that getting them where they need to go.
Also, Jesus doesn't need a PR campaign.
Yeah, amen.
His image doesn't need rehabilitated because it's been so damaged. Kind of it feels like the message is, hey, these far right evangelicals have damaged the reputation of Jesus.
Yes.
And no, Jesus is fine. His church is going to persevere and continue on.
Yeah.
for generations on generations.
Yeah.
It's going to continue to go.
For sure. So those are our thoughts. We can throw in the show notes some of those links. There are 3 articles from Christianity Today that describe some of the information about the ad. And then I came across an article by Natasha Crane entitled 7 Problems with He Gets Us. I don't agree with necessarily all of those points in there, but I think she makes some good observations.
Well, you had 8.
Yeah, well,
you blew her out of the water.
Well, no, there's overlap with hers as well. So I'm not suggesting that my 8 are different. There's going to be some overlap.
Yeah.
All right, John, you ready to move on?
Yep.
Time now for This Day in Sports History. John, you're going to love today's edition.
Yeah, Meyer, there's some lovely words, lovely names.
Oh, John, I have served you so well.
February 21st, 2023. 1979, 2 Iowa girls, high school basketball teams, play 4 scoreless quarters before the game was won 4-2 in the 4th overtime period.
That's not basketball.
That's a hockey score.
That's terrible.
1 year later, 1980. Oh, gosh. Liechtenstein. Oh, goodness.
It's a country.
Yes, I knew that. Becomes the smallest country to produce an Olympic champion as Hani?
Sure, Hani probably.
Wenzel wins the women's giant slalom at the Lake Placid Winter Games.
Okay.
Upstate New York.
Yeah.
1989, Pete Rose, oh boy, meets with Commissioner Uberoth.
Yeah, Peter Uberoth.
To discuss his gambling.
Yep. That's when things were starting to
heat up on Pete.
Heat up, become known. Things were coming out in the open. Yep.
When did he have his mea culpa? Was it 2002? Somewhere in that ballpark?
I think it feels later than that, I think. Anyway.
2014, Park Seung-hee?
Sung-hee.
Sung-hee?
Yeah.
Wins Olympic women's 1,000 short track speed skating gold medal in Sochi. I knew that one.
Yeah.
For the second gold medal of the Games. She also won the 3,000 relay race.
Yeah.
3,000-meter relay race.
Yep.
Oh, boy. I see a squished together A&E. What do you call that?
I don't remember what the exact name for that letter is.
2018, Norwegian cross-country skiers Martin Jonsrud Sundby, Johannes, there's an O with a line through it, Hasselflot, and Klæbo, oh boy, win their second gold medals in Pyeongchang in the men's team sprint freestyle. Trio also wins the 4x10,000 relay. I noticed you didn't jump in and correct me on any of those.
Sure. I mean, yeah.
My sense is that you don't know how they're pronounced either.
Yeah. Johnson Sundby, Johannes Hosflet, and Klæbo. Yeah, I think that's probably fair.
I got pretty close on those then.
I think so.
Yeah. How did I do on Pyeongchang?
Pyeongchang? Pyeongchang.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Which one do you like, John?
None. February 21st, a crummy day.
Yeah. A lot of Winter Olympic stuff. Football's over. Yeah.
The Pete Rose meeting with the commissioner feels like the least athletic sports news of all time.
Yeah.
Maybe Liechtenstein?
Okay. All right. We can go with that.
That feels
I mean, we're definitely in the window here of the Winter Olympics. So
yeah.
Liechtenstein, yeah. Let's go with that.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Liechtenstein.
All right. One thing you liked.
I'm going to throw this out there. I may want to pull this back in the future, but the revival at Asbury
has
been encouraging to me.
All right.
seen a lot of voices down there that say this seems to be a legitimate revival down at Asbury. Have you done much reading on the topic?
I've done just a very, very minimal amount. I have had students ask me my thoughts on it, so had some conversations.
Denny Burke was down there, had positive things to say. Mm-hmm. Craig Keener as well, I believe, was down there, had positive things to say. So they've been going over a week.
Yes.
And so as of now,
yes.
By this point, I suppose it could stop.
Yeah.
But praying that it spreads and the whole country the world gets wrapped up in revival. That'd be really exciting.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that's my one thing this week is the Asbury revival.
There you go. So my thing is much different direction. I have started listening to the Gut Check podcast. Have you heard of this?
I have. I have not listened.
Okay. So it's Ted Kluck, one of the three hosts. Well, he's really the lead host of the Happy Rant podcast. He's got like 4 or 5 different podcasts he does. And this is one of them. It's called the Gut Check podcast. He does it with a guy named Zach Bartels. And it's even less content than Happy Rant. So it's really just 2 guys who are very funny, just kind of talking about life and things that they find amusing. Mixture with some pop culture stuff. And
fun.
So yeah, it's very lighthearted. They don't take themselves too seriously at all. But, sometimes you need a break from the heaviness and the seriousness of life and even other podcasts that I listen to. And so this is just a very lighthearted, nice to have in the background as I'm doing other things.
Oh, yeah.
So that is the Gut Check podcast.
Awesome.
All right, John, we have talked NBA All-Star break, NBA season and leading up to the All-Star break. We've talked Mets preview. We've talked He Gets Us. But do we get him?
Tease.
We have talked Liechtenstein.
Liechtenstein.
That's a country that neither of us have been to.
No. Is European? Eastern Europe?
I don't think it's Eastern European, is it? I'm not sure.
I'm not totally sure. Like I know Luxembourg is Western Europe.
I think Liechtenstein is still Western European.
Okay.
We have talked the Asbury revival. We've talked the Gut Check podcast, and I think by definition we have covered our various and sundry topics. And so all that's left to say is, until next time, the Lord bless you all real good.
Later.